Okay, hello everyone.
Hello.
Litmus-Community-Sync-up meeting. We'll just wait for a couple of minutes. I think people are trickling in. Okay, I think we are 3 minutes past time. We can get started. So once again, hello everyone. Welcome to the Litmus Community Sync-up meeting. This is the last Community Sync-up meeting of the year 2020. I think it's been a really eventful year for Litmus. So yeah, I think happy to discuss the last release and also hear from you on any feedback that you would like to provide about Litmus, things that you would like to see. And we'll also probably talk a little bit about what we're planning to do for early next year. So we have some new members on the call today. I think we have Jayaprakash, who's joining us from Nokia. So we've been discussing or chatting with Jayaprakash on Slack. Thanks for joining today. Would you like to introduce yourself and share your experiences thus far?
Yeah, thanks Karthik. Hi, I'm Jayaprakash and I've been in the telecom domain for about 10 years now. So currently working with Nokia Networks, and I do performance testing mainly along with some CI/CD. So now our product is moved into the cloud native solution. So as you all might know, it does require the robustness test. So when I look for some good chaos testing tools, I came across the Litmus. So yeah, we are trying to get a hold of Litmus and trying to use this currently.
Awesome. Thanks, Jayaprakash. I think some of your feedback has been really valuable, especially around running chaos in restricted environments with pod security policies. I think you triggered the discussion thread on that. So thank you. I think it's made its way into the 1.11 release. So thanks for that. We have a few more folks joining in. Laura has joined after quite some time. Hi, Laura. How are you? How have you been? And hope you're getting back into chaos again.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's nice. Because I don't see any audio feedback, but yeah, that's probably normal. Yeah, I just thought I'd join again. I think my last community call is an eternity ago. probably even last year. I don't remember. 2020 passed, felt like, yeah, ages long. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
Great. Thanks for joining today. Thanks, Om, also for posting the meeting notes link. So feel free to add yourself as attendees on the meeting notes. We also have Kristin, we also have Jordi, a lot of folks who've joined us today. Thanks for joining. Before we go on with our agenda, I just wanted to listen from you all on what you want to discuss today. I think we've got a few agenda items, the standard ones. We have the 1.11 release that we can discuss, items that we're planning for 1.12. And there's also a new feature that we added in 1.11, which I wanted to specifically introduce. So it might be helpful to a lot of folks trying to do SLO validations as part of the experiment execution. This is the Prometheus Pro. And there has been some updates to our documentation. The SIGDocs team has been active in trying to revamp the docs story on Litmus. We've moved to we are trying to move to Docusaurus 2. And VEDANT, who is here, can share some insights and probably provide a preview of the new docs platform and how we're trying to structure the documentation in it. This is what we have for agenda, but I'll be happy to take any new items that you may want to discuss, any feedback or any thoughts, end of year thoughts around Litmus. I think this is a good time probably to discuss those as well. So we've had a really eventful year for chaos in general. We've had some new announcements coming in. I think the KubeCon that just went by sort of validated the importance of chaos, and then we had AWS launching its managed service for chaos. A lot of traction in the chaos community in general. So I think that's quite exciting. Let me share my screen. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. I think there was a fluctuation in my internet service. So I'm back now. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, yes, I just dropped off for a second and came back. Cool. All right.
No worries.
Let me share my screen once again. Yeah, so this is the release notes for 1.11. I'll briefly go through it. So we have been working on the Litmus portal, which is essentially a portal. It's a dashboard that's going to help you to construct chaos workflows. So chaos workflows, as you might all know, is another abstraction for running the experiments. In case you want to run more than one experiment as part of a sequence, or you want more than one fault to be injected in parallel, or sometimes you might want to run an experiment along with a load gen that's running in parallel, some kind of benchmark workload that you're running in parallel, you can use the Litmus chaos workflows. These are essentially Argo workflows that have been modified with some additional capabilities. So the vanilla Argo workflows are just going to execute a particular task defined in the template. With the Litmus chaos workflows, the overall status of the workflow is determined by the success of the individual experiments inside of the workflow. And the Litmus portal is something that we've constructed to help create and schedule these workflows and also visualize them as the experiments are being executed. So the typical architecture is like this. You have the portal, which acts as the control plane for Litmus. You can be installed on a cluster. You can run chaos on the same cluster, but you can also connect other Kubernetes clusters as targets into the portal. And there's going to be a Litmus agent that's going to run on the target clusters, which are going to enable execution of the workflows. The workflow creation and scheduling wizard is under development. We are in the beta 0 phase of the portal. We've been working on it over the past 2-3 months. And we've moved on from alpha 1 into beta 0 phase for 1.11. And it has the ability to support basic authentication, and you can create teams where you can invite your colleagues to collaborate on the experiments. And it also helps you to pick different experiment sources. The primary source of experiments today is the Chaos Hub. And if you have a fork of this in which you've pushed your own custom experiments that have not been upstreamed yet, or you're not upstreaming it because of some confidentiality reasons, you can actually provide a Litmus portal can actually take a different source. We just need the CSV structure to be maintained on the Chaos Hub. That's the representation of the experiment on the hub. We just need to maintain those metadata files in a similar way. And you can provide weights for the experiments that you're choosing as part of a workflow. So in the end, you get a resilience score that's going to define how your workflow has gone, depending upon the success or failure of the individual experiments within the workflow. You can also schedule, where we are using the native Argo scheduling to rerun experiments using the Argo cron schedule. And you can also visualize the experiment execution via the tree graphs. You can also compare history and compare resilience scores. And there are some basic analytics provided by the portal, which will help you to identify how your resilience has improved over a period of time. The user guide is available today. It's in a Google Doc. You can actually take a look at it and can follow the experiments construction. The various screens that are used as part of the Litmus portal workflows will all be brought into the documentation eventually, but right now it resides in a Google Doc. You can take a look at that. I just saw Hoshwin joined our call. Hi, Hoshwin, welcome to the sync-up. All right, so this was the first item. The portal is making progress. And the next important item in the release was the introduction of the Prometheus probe. So as you know, we have been improving the probes framework in Litmus. We introduced it to enable a declarative way of defining your hypothesis. The SLO can be represented as either an endpoint which you want to query, or it can be some commands that you want to run and some results that you want to see, some state of the cluster or of particular Kubernetes resources. But I think the most common way to measure or validate SLO is via metrics, and Prometheus is omnipresent nowadays, and a lot of applications come with native exporters, Prometheus exporters. So we've introduced the Prometheus Probe. You can include this in the Chaos engine. You can provide a Prometheus service endpoint and provide the PromQL query that you would like to run. The result of this query is going to be validated against some criteria. And if there is a match, then the probe is considered as being successful. If not, it's going to be considered a failure. And a failure of the probe results in the experiment verdict being set to fail. The queries can be complex sometimes. So it might become very difficult to manage the manifests whenever there are long queries. So you can create the queries in a PromQL file, text file that can be mounted to the experiment via config map. The config maps for experiments is something that's already available. You can specify them whether in the engine or the Chaos experiment. And the query path parameter can be used. That's been defined here. You can use the query or the query path. They're mutually exclusive today. And you can run the Prometheus queries and do the comparison. And this probe also supports the same set of modes the other probes run with, that is the SOT, it is a start of test, end of test, edge, that is working at both the beginning and end of the experiment, and continuous mode, which is going to run through the duration of the experiment, and on chaos mode, which is going to be active only for the period of chaos injection. So this was another feature that we sort of brought in. Let me just share some more information about the Prometheus probe. There is a blog that is coming up. So we will share the details of Prometheus probe examples that you can probably use as you are running your experiments. Okay, I think these were probably the top 2 items in the release. There have been some other important changes that have come in. Thanks to Jordi and Ondra and Moti and the folks from the KubeVirt team for adding the experiments to do node restarts and node power off experiments on KubeVirt based Linux VMs. The support for these experiments, I think over time will be extended for other platforms as well. Right now they have been tested against the KubeVirt VMs. It's under active usage by the KubeVirt team. I think these are really useful experiments for people wanting to simulate transient node level failures in an ungraceful way. So these are some new experiments that we've added. Apart from this, we also have some improvements on the general chaos orchestration layer. We had Kazuki contributing the ability to add env variable values from config map and secrets literals. We used to use a string value. That was the only supported environment variable value, but now you can actually get values from config maps and secrets. I think this is especially useful in case of platform experiments. Let's say you want to provide the access keys or secret IDs for your database platform or your other cloud platforms. It's a good way to do this. And we also started supporting the native chaos lib, LitmusChaos lib for doing network chaos on Docker runtime. So we had support for containerd and cryo runtime, where the LitmusChaos lib was being used, and Pumbaa was being used for Docker runtime. So I think incidentally, when we are discussing this change, Laura is also in the call today. I think she has been instrumental in suggesting a lot of enhancements on this chaos lib in particular. We've actually introduced the LitmusChaos lib for Docker runtime as well. Pumbaa is going to be supported, but you can use Litmus as well. One of the main reasons for us to actually bring this in is the fact that with the Pumbaa Chaos lib, we'll have to pull external images. Specifically, this is the TC image environment variable that was being specified, and the image was being pulled at runtime. So this can cause some undesirable extra steps when running in air-gapped environments, and we wanted to simplify it, and we've introduced the new lib. We had some very useful feedback coming in from Hoshwen on how to improve the general orchestration and resilience of the Litmus experiment workflow. So we had cases where the experiment helpers, when they are evicted or they are force removed manually, that can cause the chaos revert operations to be unsuccessful or not be triggered at all. And that can cause the applications to be under prolonged influence of chaos. So this is something that we wanted to resolve. It's something that is in progress. I will share some of the tasks that we have associated with that, but we did take some initial steps towards fixing those kind of issues. In cases where there are failed helper pods, we are now able to remove them based on the job cleanup policy that has been specified in the chaos engine. So this is one of the initial steps towards making the workflow more resilient. We also are supporting image pull policy for the helpers. It was being specified for the chaos runner and experiment pods, and now we have just propagated the same capabilities to the helper pods as well. Some optimizations on the way we are doing the dependency checks in the chaos runner. The chaos runner has undergone some significant refactoring to make it more modular, less unwieldy. Kazuki and Shubham have put in a good amount of work in optimizing this. And there were experiments being executed on low footprint platforms like K3s, MicroK8s, where the standard paths of some of the runtime files are not standard, as in they have either different paths or sometimes they're not available. Clickctl.yaml is one such example. It's generally available in other containerd or CRI clusters you operate with, either in OpenShift or in GKE. It's not available on some of these other platforms. So we got rid of it and are using the flags for the clickctl command to specify the runtime and image endpoint instead of using the clickctl.yaml. And there has been some DevOps improvements. The sizes of the image for the chaos operator and runner have been reduced significantly, and we also started using Red Hat UI minimal image, which has less attack surface and brings down vulnerabilities to a good extent. So the same is going to be applied to the Litmus Go runner as well. And talking of the Go runner images, we had some requests for being able to run non-root images. So this is a little bit tricky because we are using the runtime APIs. We have to mount the socket file, and then we have to use the root user when you're performing operations such as entering into the target containers network namespace and triggering a process, or invoking a stress command in the process namespace of a target container. Having said that, there are some workarounds, some hacks that are possible. You could use a sudo user with a lot of permissions, which is more or less equivalent to a root user, but still it, I think, supports or sort of aligns with a pod security policy, which may have other important restrictions that have been placed. So we've introduced some recommended pod security policies for the experiments if you're in case running in restricted environments where there is some isolation or some restriction on what you can do we added the host paths, the required host paths, and added the required capabilities and turned off what was not really needed. So this is something that we're going to continue working upon. It's going to be more like a continuous improvement process on increasing the security aspect of it. I think we are already, doing okay by not running daemon sets all the time to inject chaos and launching a helper pod instead for doing a particular chaos on a given node for a given period of time. So I think that was a conscious architectural decision, and we will continue to work on improving the other aspects around security. Some improvements around simplifying the new experiment creation, bootstrapping via the CLI tool. We've introduced a CLI tool called Litmus SDK, which will help you to create new experiments. Having said that, it is yet to be, there is a roadmap on improving it to be able to generate chaos engines and testing the experiment along with the chaos engine. Today, we just create the experiment files, and when testing it, the user has to sort of bring up an Octito-based dev environment into which he can exec and then run the examples. So that's something that we're trying to optimize. And there have been few improvements on the documentation side and E2E. There is a coverage tracker. So if you are introducing new experiments, please do take a look at Litmus E2E repository. You can go to the branch where the test is included into. We have the Litmus portal branch, the OpenEBS branch, the generic. The generic is the most active one, where all the experiments are slotted. So you can take a look at the master YAML, masterplan.yaml, which talks about the various scenarios that are going to be run as part of the E2E. And there is some efforts to sort of start quantifying what we are running and what is not being run. There is some coverage metrics that you can sort of get for the individual experiments. This is a first cut implementation that we have today, and is something that can improve. There are some heat maps which we are trying to improve on what kind of experiments are being, what kind of E2E tests are being run against experiment. The categories are based on platform and scenarios and runtimes and things like that. So feel free to contribute to the master YAML and also take a look at this repo for adding new BDDs for your experiments. That's going to be really helpful for us. Coming back, there were some major bug fixes. Most notably, there was this behavior in containerd runtime, where if you're running applications with liveness probes and you're injecting network chaos, it's possible the liveness probes are going to fail and restart the containers, causing a change in the container ID. And we were using the container PID for being able to track the container, inject chaos, and also revert it. But with this, you will not be able to use the same PID for doing the revert of the chaos, and the application can continue to be in the crashed state for long unless manually recovered. So the fix in this case has been to apply the netum rules against the sandbox container. We are trying to derive the PID of the corresponding sandbox container for an app container, and then we inject it there. Since it shares the network namespace, you're going to still inject the chaos, but you will also be able to revert it successfully, even though the main application is being restarted. There have been some other improvements, thanks to Hoshvin for cleaning up the cluster role on the operator. This needs to be extended to the experiments as well. So we were seeing grouping of unrelated resources and groups because of the way the rule had been set up. It's not something that was impacting the experiment flow, but it's not something that is desirable either. So this is being cleaned up. And there are some limitations that we identified as part of the last couple of releases, which we are trying to highlight in the release notes every time. We are supporting an exec mode of stress chaos. You could execute to the pod and run some commands. You can run some MD5 commands or DD commands to eat up CPU and memory. In most cases, people are comfortable using this, but in some cases where you're using an image that's not really offering you a shell, like scratch-based images, or you're using very minimal images which don't have common utilities that come in, like PS or DD, etc. In those cases, it might be difficult to follow this mode of execution. So we are providing an alternative. In case the runtime is Docker, you can use the Pumbaa lib to run the stress images. But in case you're using Containerd and Cryo, the support for that is going to be added in the next release. We will be using a non-exec mode of doing stress chaos from external container for these two runtimes, non-Docker runtimes. It will be supported in the forthcoming release, but that's a limitation for now. So this is what we managed to get done. And regarding items that we're planning for the 1.12 release, there is a preliminary list that we sort of have. We're using the Odoo project, open source project for managing our boards. This can be done on GitHub as well. We did track milestones for some time on GitHub, but we felt sometimes you want multiple GitHub issues associated with a particular task, and we also want to sort of not keep issues for too long a time when you know that they are going to be in backlog for quite a while. So we just moved to a different way to track them. Some of the important ones, like we just mentioned, based on limitations, adding the support for the stress chaos in non-exec mode. That's one of the things. And handling the chaos revert, something from an orchestration standpoint. For forced removal of helper pods is something that we are looking at. This is currently under design. And there's a lot of doc improvements, and I'll just hand it over to Vedant in a bit so that he can show the Docusaurus 2 platform. There's a lot of new content that we're planning to add in the docs, and also simplify and restructure it so that people get access to information in an easier way. Right now, a lot of information is buried under different sublinks, and pages a little obscure today. So trying to improve the documentation. And also improvements on the observability side for including adding metrics around probe success percentage, getting the exporter to run in a namespace mode of operation, improving the chaos scheduler by providing a cron time zone, and adding more details about a Helm file based advanced install where you can run the portal, the experiments, and the Litmus operator in one shot. You can install them. And there's also new experiments around the platform side. We are seeing some good traction around new AWS experiments. Damien, also from Red Hat, is contributing the availability zone failure experiment. There are some requests for doing chaos on vSphere based VMs as well. So we will be working on some of these items. So this list is not exhaustive. There's going to be some more items that are going to come in, and we will sort of share that on the Litmus channel around, but these are some of the most important roadmap items that will be getting covered in 1.12. So with that, I'm open to questions on any of the release items or any of the forthcoming items for 1.12. I can take some questions around that. And after that, I can hand it off to Vedant for showing the Docusaurus 2 updates. Okay. If there are no questions, then I'll probably hand it over to Vedant. Vedant, would you like to just share your updates on the Docusaurus 2 promotion that we are trying to work on, moving the documentation to the new platform?
Yeah, sure. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Karthik. So, hey everyone, this is Vedant. So I will just share my screen. Is it visible?
Yeah.
So yeah, so here it is. So we have been like working on migration of our documentation from version 1 to version 2. So there have been many changes on the documentation part as well. Like as you can see, like here we have made some changes in the sidebar as well. Like adjusting some of the categories as subcategories as well. We have shifted these subcategories into custom resources and made one category for hypothesis so that it will be useful for like users to actually go through the documentation. And like for the during the migration of version 1 to version 2, so like if like according to the updates, there has been some enhancements as well as like there were some challenges as well. So if I go for enhancements, so like now we can add drop down, we can select through versions. So like as you can see, currently we have migrated two versions, so 1.11 is there and 1.10. So we are already on the latest one. And if you like want to check the unreleased one that currently we are working on, so you can go through there as well. So it will like continuously be alerting you like you are on like current version or the which version you are on. And like for the latest one it will be the similar one. And here we have like theme changes as well. And now in the previous version we had the display of version in here, so now we will be having that one here. And yeah, and there are some changes like progressively we will be doing so that you have some good experience like looking for like there's an option now we can like make the code blocks to be live so that you can edit the code in the same place. And these are changes we will be doing. And like coming to the challenges that we faced, so previously in version 1, so in version 1 like we were following only the HTML format. So there was like no limitation or strict rules we had to like follow. Like you can write any HTML tag, you are not closing it. So like there were no like direct check like if you are doing the correct things or not. Yeah, like documentation we will be like will be executed, but there might be some syntax or format errors might be there. But now in version 2, like there is a good thing that they have shifted to JSX. So now whenever you will be making some changes in the documentation, so it will compile your whole docs and compile it to JSX format. So now in JSX we have our like rules. Now you have to close each and every tags, you can't use special characters. So now for special characters you have to use quotes. So like those are the challenges. Like you can say like now you cannot directly use a less than symbol or curly symbol. Now you have to use quotes for them. But apart from that like there are like good things as well now, because like now there will be no syntax or format errors in there. And yeah, like that's pretty much I think. And like in currently in this version they have like removed the this part for showing GitHub stars or something like that. But like there's an option for sizzling the footer, so we will be progressively doing that one as well. So yeah, the changes. And yeah, like in like moving forward we will be shifting to this Docker version 2, and you will be able to use it. It will be a great experience for you as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for helping with this migration, Vedant. I think Docker 2 is what the community also is supporting. Docker community also is recommending us to move to this platform, and most of the support is available for this. And it also gives us the flexibility to do multi-level nesting like Vedant mentioned, and also we can add landing pages that makes it easier for people to access information in a better way. So on that note, I would just like to share with the community if anyone is interested in contributing to the documentation in terms of improving the docs infrastructure and helping us with the landing page creation or with putting together improved FAQs or troubleshooting scenarios that you might have encountered. If you have some kind of lists that you are maintaining around how you've solved issues with Litmus, please feel free to share that with the community on the Slack. We can improve the documentation using that, and that's going to be helpful for a lot of people. All right, I think that was the update on the documentation, and there are some interesting use cases that we have been discussing with some of the folks on this call, notably Jayaprakash and Hoshwen. So we are working with the CNF conformance community. The CNF conformance is a group that has started for allowing telco providers to test their containerized network functions on a common test bed. So the CNF conformance group is creating a set of standard tests and also providing a standard test bed where those tests can be executed. The resilience tests are a part of that suite, and we are adding LitmusChaos experiments as part of the resilience test suite in CNF conformance. So if you have any ideas around what are the traditional use cases you might encounter in a telco environment, in a CNF environment, what are the workloads like, what are the SLO validations like, what are the different kind of checks one might want to perform during an experiment run. If you have some thoughts on that, then please feel free to share that. I'm going to share a link on the chat, which is where we are tracking some use cases where some folks like Jayaprakash and others are contributing. And I'll also share it on the meeting notes. So if you have some thoughts around this kind of workloads, or if you feel that Litmus needs to be improved with a certain set of observability capabilities, some observability hooks that you need to improve your experience better. The telco grade experience is supposed to be probably the most sophisticated or the high level experience because of the critical conditions in which they operate. So if you have some thoughts in that direction, please feel free to share it in the doc there, and we will be adding that into the backlog, and they will be subsequently pulled in as part of the regular milestones. All right. I think with that, we are done with the agenda items for this community sync-up call. We are free to take any questions or hear any feedback or thoughts. All right. Yeah, I think we can go ahead and end this call. Please feel free to share your issues and requirements on GitHub as usual. We will be curating that and bringing that on to the milestones as we go ahead. Thank you all for attending today. I hope this sync-up was useful in learning about what we have been doing and what we can expect in the near term. Have a great holiday season. So happy Christmas to all of you in advance, and wish you all a happy new year. I think we will meet in the next community sync-up in 2021. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.